Yok. İki tane olunca çift ses var şu anda. Onların duyduğu.
Sayın Hocam, is there any echo?
No, we don't have any echo. Sound clear and nice.
Okay, thank you. We will start in a few minutes.
Credo che ci sia prima la presentazione del lettore, qualcosa del lettore, credo prima, no? Ci sia l'introduzione del lettore, forse. No, non c'è.
Yes, it's recording and I'm sharing my screen.
Kayıt da var.
Tamam, artık tamam. Okay. Let me explain then. Arkadaşlar hoş geldiniz. Bugün iki tane sunum. Bir taneden hocamız
Please go to the first slide.
Lucio, İtalya Salento Üniversitesi'nden geldi ve orada
Çalışmıyor
VR labı,
bir
VR labı var. Özellikle sağlık alanında VR uygulamalar üzerinde önemli çalışmaları var. Bize bugün biraz onlardan bahsedecek. İkinci kısımda ise İngiltere'ye bağlanacağız. İngiltere'de yine Birmingham Üniversitesi'nden Profesör Hüseyin hocamız var. O bize Artificial Intelligence konusunda bir sunum yapacak. Yaklaşık 12'ye kadar buradayız. Ben linklerini size attım ama bizim sosyal medya hesaplarımızı paylaşırsanız onların arasında biraz sonra toplantı bitiminde çekiliş yapacağız. Powerbank girişlerinde kulaklığımız, kupalarımız falan var, flash disklerimiz var.
This to go down, left, right, and the pointer. Okay, yeah. Okay.
Ona göre çekiliş yapacağız. Okay, Dr. Ruchi, you can start. Thank you for coming. You can introduce yourself.
Yes, of course. Good morning to everybody. Thanks a lot to Professor Yassin for your invitation to this today. I'm very happy to be here. Let me introduce the activities of my lab, focus on the application of extended reality in cultural heritage and in medicine. I am an associate professor and the director of the Augmented Virtual Reality Laboratory that is located in Lecce. Lecce is a small town in the south of Italy. And the activities, research activities of the lab are focused on the application of virtual reality and augmented reality in medicine surgery, cultural heritage, and human-computer interaction. Okay, in the lab we have also two companies. One is innovative startup, and the name is XR Technology, and AVR Med Serel is a spin-off of the University of Salento. Okay, just a few words in order to better understand what means virtual reality, augmented reality, and mixed reality. You know that in the virtual reality application, the user is fully immersed in the digital environment, and they lose any connection or any relationship with the real world. In the augmented reality, the user maintains the relationship with the real world, but virtual objects are overlapped to the real environment. In the mixed reality applications, there is the overlapping of virtual objects on the real one, but the real and virtual objects coexist in the same environment. All these technologies are included in this technological umbrella that is called extended reality. In the next year, you will have extended reality, not different technologies, virtual, augmented, and mixed reality. Okay, let me show you some applications that we developed in my lab in the last year on these technologies in cultural heritage. This was an application in archaeology in order to visualize on the picture of the area the monuments, the buildings, the churches that were in the past in this area. And is augmented reality application because our application is able to recognize this picture to create a crowd of points, and in that way it's possible to overlap the three-dimensional models of the monuments, like in this case. Very interesting, because in this way, using a simple user interface, it's possible to pass from one age to the next one in order to visualize the different buildings that were located in this area. Just a few seconds of the movie in order to show how this application works. You can see that on the maybe, okay, sorry, Italian. You can see overlap the 3D models of the church that were located in this area. Okay, another application, I will be very fast, I can leave the slides, and if you have any question, please don't hesitate to contact me by email. Another interesting application is a combination of the augmented reality and drone. The idea is to use the drone in order to visualize the area, the real area at the moment, and to overlap this is the area that is close to Lecce, is the Adriano Pier, and we have the reconstruction of this Roman pier, and the drone is able to take information, take picture, take movie about the area, and to overlap the reconstruction of this area in the past. The idea is to provide the possibility to visit this area, to visualize this area, how was in the Roman time. Another interesting application was about this Basilica, Saint Caterina of Alexandria in Galatina. Galatina is a small town, but the church is beautiful. It's a very interesting church with a lot of frescoes on the walls. And we find a path, a specific path, in order to permit the user, to the visitor of this church, to recognize some frescoes and to obtain a lot of information about that. The guide, the virtual guide, is Pietro Cavoti. The study of this church, we realized this application take into account the studies of Pietro Cavoti. And I will show you a simple movie in order to better understand how works this application, how the user, how the visitor of the church can obtain information just seeing by means of the camera, of the mobile, the frescoes. The church is a kind of book, magic book, very nice book, but it's difficult to understand the meaning of the frescoes on the walls. By means of this application, you can obtain more detailed information. Point you can obtain the voice of the virtual guide. Sorry, in Italian also. Take into account that in the frescoes, there are a lot of angels with the musical instruments, medieval musical instruments. And if more of these are recognized, and you can hear the music of these medieval instruments. Okay, in order to be not to be too long, I pass to the next application. Is another application of virtual reality, and here there is Federica that developed this application. It's about archaeological and naturalistic park located in Dostuni, where found this lady, this girl, that this is the oldest pregnant in the history, that is about 28,000 years old. And we developed this application. I will show you a movie. It's possible to navigate in the naturalistic park and obtain a lot of information about the plants, the trees that existed at that time. And then you can go inside. There is a specific path that you have to follow, and you can move using the controller of the helmet in order to follow the different points and to reach the cave where there is this lady, and you can see the ceremony of this. We try to understand how could be this ceremony in the past, and of course we did a lot of study in order to be precise and scientific, to have a scientific, correct scientific application. Okay, I move again to the next application of virtual reality. Is about the castle of Corsano. Corsano is a small town, and this castle was used in the past in different way, and Sofia developed this application. And you can see that by means of simple user interface, you can move from the different ages and to visualize how was the castle in the past. It's interesting because it's possible to have different kind of interaction during the navigation in the virtual environment, because there are some movie or some pictures that permit to better understand how was used this castle in the past. When you will come in lecture, Professor Yasin, you can visit this place and you better understand these applications. There are different interest points, and you can point by means of the controller and to obtain a lot of information. Okay, I will move also to another application that is completely different. Is about the technology of virtual portals. That is a combination of augmented reality and virtual reality. We use this technology in order to permit the virtual visit of some monument that doesn't exist at the moment, or are difficult to reach, or are partially destroyed, for instance. And we can decide to place the door of the entrance of this virtual monument here, for instance, and by means of your mobile, you can move, you pass the door, and you are completely immersed in the virtual environment. We realized this application for a church that is located in a small village called Ruggiano, and you can see here the picture of the area where, with the chair, with the virtual reconstruction of the chair. At the moment, there is a park. The church doesn't exist, and there is a park, but if you go there, you can visualize how was the church. In the past, you can visit inside the church in order to have an idea how was that area before the destruction of the church was bombed during the Second War, and for this reason, they decided to have a parking area in that. Did some reconstruction area, place, church, using the photogrammetry in order to be very precise, to have a precise idea of the church. Sorry, but I will give the presentation and I move on another different kind of application in cultural heritage is a video mapping that was used in order to animate a pictorial cycle, in order to animate these 4 pictures, painters that are located in Monopoly, in the church cathedral in Monopoly, and Giada developed this application. Very interesting because using the video mapping is possible to animate this pictorial cycle, and you can describe what the painter, the 4 painters want to say us. And you can see now the one character of the church of the painter is animated, and he will jump to the next one in order to describe in visual way how this painter wants to tell us. This was about the construction of the church. I will show you just a few seconds in order to understand how it's possible to animate this character in the painters. He tried to go out of the painter and jump up and go up to jump to the next. This is a very simple but impressive way to visualize, to tell the history of these 4 painters, 4 pictures. He called the angel in order to help. Just a few seconds more. Okay. Okay. Just to use this technology in order to permit the people to understand the history. Okay, last application in progress about the use of these technologies in cultural heritage is the use of the digital twin. No? The digital twin are used in many different fields, in the industrial field in particular, but we decide to use these technologies in cultural heritage because it's very important, the conservation of the cultural heritage. It's important to obtain a lot of information about the real situation of the building or the church, and we can use this information, this data collected by means a lot of sensors in order to prevent these monuments. But it's also important not only the protection and conservation of these monuments, but also important to find a solution in order to improve the enjoyment. And for this reason, we use the digital twin in order to create a methodology for the conservation, but also for the enjoyment of these monuments. And a PhD student in my lab is studying on these technologies. What is, just a few words in order to better understand what is a digital twin. The digital twin is a digital copy of this monument or an object, but by means of a lot of sensors, it's possible to have a lot of information, a lot of data of the monument of the object. And this data could be used in order to understand the situation and to find the solution to prevent this possible situation that we can avoid. And it's different from the simulation, because the simulation is a static copy, a static photo of the monument. The digital twin is updated, the photo that is updated in real time. And many technologies are used in order to obtain a digital twin: Internet of Things, extended reality, cloud computing, artificial intelligence. Okay, what about, shortly I will show some application of this technology in medicine surgery. In particular, if we want to understand if the extended reality could be supported, could be help the doctor and the surgeon in particular. And extended reality is an innovation, and the future of the healthcare will be based on this technology. And because it's important in order to permit the training, to help the doctor during the real surgical procedure, or to plan in the best way the surgical procedure. And you can say that the medicine meets the extended reality and is involved, this technology is involved in different fields of medicine. How the augmented reality could be used in medicine? We can overlap virtual information or virtual images obtained by means of the processing of the medical images on the real patient body. You can see here that the leg is real, but these are virtual information overlapped, or this is the same case. And you can have a sort of X-ray vision inside the patient body that is important in minimally invasive surgery. And we developed some application using this technology. In which way we can overlap? Now, the idea is this. This is the virtual, this is the real organ, and this is the virtual one, the three-dimensional model of the virtual organ. In which way we can overlap? Because if we are able to overlap perfectly virtual organs on the real ones, we can guide the surgeon during the surgery, and we overlap these virtual organs on the real ones by means of some fiducial points that we obtain in placing some marker on the patient body before scanning the patient body, before obtaining the medical images. We developed an application on the treatment of the liver tumors. The doctor wants to reach the tumor. This is the tumor. This is the tool used to destroy the tumor. The surgeon wants to reach the tumor in order to destroy an area around the tumor by hyperthermia, but it's not so simple when the tumor is located very deep in the liver or is very small. And for this reason, they are not able to reach the tumor, but is able to arrive close to the tumor. That means that it has to destroy a large area with a lot of healthy cells. And this is not good. Our application permits to be precise, and we tested this application in operative theater. I don't know in which way the movie doesn't start. Okay, don't worry. And we tried, we applied this technology in the operative theater. On the right, there is the movie. But the important thing is that the doctor, when he used this technology, said to use the augmented reality in surgery is like to guide the car using the GPS navigator, because we know perfectly where is located the tumor, what is around the tumor, and we can reduce the time of the operation, and we can be very, very precise. Okay, another application that is a combination of these technologies, the human-computer interaction, is very interesting because we use this hairband that is called Mayo, that is able to recognize, to detect the muscle activity in the hairband, and we decide to associate to some movements of the hand, some tasks in the virtual environment. For instance, the rotation or the zoom or the sliding of the slides. And we combined the three-dimensional camera to Oculus Rift in order to have an helmet for augmented reality that could be very, very cheap. And we use the helmet. This is the heart surgeon that collaborate to this application. Let me show you, okay, the movie of this application, and you can see that the doctor just moving the hand in the free space can interact with the three-dimensional model of the organs located in space. This is application was developed in order to fund such procedure. You can see, you can slice the tag, the images. Okay, you can zoom in or zoom out the model, or you can just using some simple movements of the leg. And the interesting thing is the head of the doctor is tracked, and if you want, you can navigate inside the three-dimensional model of the organ. No? You can see, you can navigate in order to better understand the situation. This application would develop in order to help the doctor in the planning, the surgical procedure, about the change of the visual body. Okay, just one other project, very interesting, is a project that where we use the virtual augmented reality for the treatment of the attention deficit hyperactivity. And we developed this project in collaboration with the rehabilitation center in Naples. And we decided to use this technology because the little patient refused the traditional treatment. And for this reason, we decided to have a game-based approach and based on the paradigm of learning by playing. In that way, the learning process is completely hide to the children, and they go in the hospital in order to play, not to do the therapy, and they are happy to go in the hospital. But this is the last project where I will describe in few words how it works. There is a face recognition system that is able to recognize the little patient when arriving in the hospital and associate an avatar. And the avatar will follow the patient, the little patient, during the therapy in order to permit to the patient to not be alone during the therapy. And we developed some application based on the, I can go up and down now. Okay, and we developed the avatar. The avatar uses also a non-verbal communication. The first time it's possible to customize the avatar in order to decide how could be the avatar with the blonde hair, with the hat, in different way. And we have also a biofeedback analyzer. We used some wearable device in order to measure the stress, the level of stress of the little patient during the therapy, and in order to adjust the difficulty of the game, take into account the level of the stress, using this biofeedback analyzer. We developed many games based on the virtual reality applications, technology, but also a game based on the augmented reality using the HoloLens. And you can see some pictures of the children that use that application. You can see that they were very able to wear the helmet, to use the technology. In few minutes, they were able to use this technology. Just okay, the movie doesn't start, unfortunately. Okay, but you have information. This is the last slide. We are planning 2 events in Lecce. It's an international conference on extended reality that will be in the next July. And we organize also an international summer school based on extended reality artificial intelligence that will be in Matera. That is a beautiful town in the south of Italy. Okay. Very fast. Okay. This is just a few seconds. Remember the date. Yeah. And then the the material. Okay, you have all the information about these events. I thank you for your kind attention.
Any question? Any question to Dr. Lucho?
So, in this medicine field, VR technology application, this data is real CT scans to VR or just only CT scan to visualize VR?
No, in all of this application, we use the real patient image obtained by CT or MRI, no? And we use this data set of images in order to build a three-dimensional model of the organs, because these applications are focused on the specific patient, no? It's not generally. We don't use the computer graphics technology in order to build a three-dimensional model of the organs, because we want to help the doctor in the specific case of the patients.
Also shows the patient illness that is.
Yeah, yeah.
This system is really applied in any real surgery?
Yeah, this is a very good question. Because because if we want to use this system to plan the surgical procedure, we can do it, because we built just a three-dimensional model from the medical images. We can use also for training, because the patient is not there. No, we help the doctor to perform training on the specific case. But if you want to use the augmented reality during the real surgical procedure, we did some tests in the hospital, you have to follow, before using on the real patient, we have to follow a lot of steps in order to obtain a lot of authorization from the hospital, from the patient. And for this reason, is not used in, is used in combination with the traditional way. The doctor uses the traditional way to perform training and use the augmented reality application in order to verify, just to verify, to have a sort of control, but they don't take decision based only on the augmented reality application.
So the patients don't want to be tested, right? So a new doctor sometimes may have difficulties in real operation. Before this operation, they can be trained, right?
Yes,
so
yes. Before training, they can plan the surgical procedure, and during the real surgical procedure, this doesn't use immediately this application. He took the decision and then check if the decision could be good according to the suggestion of the augmented reality application. But it doesn't take decision based only on the augmented reality application. He can do it, but after the many steps that we have to follow in order to permit to have authorization for the patient, authorization for the hospital, no? And we did this application in the hospital just to verify if it was correct or not, the information obtained by means of the augmented reality application.
Any other question?
Are these apps are commercial or non-commercial, and do you earn any money from them?
Yeah, we developed this application in medicine or in cultural heritage, because in cultural heritage it's simple to use this application. It could be commercial. We developed a lot of the application. We developed application in the European project or national project, you know, and you can use the result of these projects. In the medical field, we develop applications that are commercial because some companies or some hospital asked us to develop this application. And or is a result of European projects. For instance, I didn't show you some application developed in the maxillofacial surgery, in order to help the doctor during the maxillofacial surgery. And the hospital, if he decide to use, can use this application because he obtained money to develop from the European fund, for European funding to develop this application. Yeah.
I want to ask you about the application to the patient follower inside the hospital. Beautiful. I want to ask which deep learning method that were used to detect the face of the patient.
You told about the face recognition system. Yeah, this face recognition system was developed for another partner of the project. We developed the application of extended reality, virtual reality, augmented reality. But the problem was that this company that developed this application developed the same application for the Italian police, in order to, for the security reason, to try to recognize some face, in some specific place, like in the airport or in the square. But in this application are involved the young people, and it's much difficult to recognize the face of a young people or the children, because the face of children is not like us, I can say the shape of the eyes or the nose or the not so how can say we have to customize this application in order to recognize. When we use the first time this application, the application wasn't able to recognize the children because the face of the children is smoothed, is not so like an adult man or girl. And we try to adjust some parameters in order to recognize this. It was a hard work in order to permit the application to recognize also the children.
So is that effect on the, you say, the ability or the running of the total project? Is that effect on that?
Yeah, we detected some points in the face, a feature, okay, of the face, and these features are compared to the feature obtained when the child is in front of the camera, and in order to recognize or not.
So we work in the, sorry for we are working with the time, with the real time. Is that
in real time, of course.
Is that effect on the time? It's making a relation or not?
No. Take into account the recognition has to be very fast, When the child arrives in front of the camera, has to be immediately recognized in order to associate the right avatar. Other question for the audience?
How do you create the graphics in the VR that you are using? From
Which kind of graphics?
Like let's say, for example, organs or let's say one, I can't remember the name of the organ.
Liver?
Yeah. And other things you use the virtual reality. So let's say, is it done like in the movies? Like they create a laboratory and they create a green screen.
Okay. He's asking about, I think, the graphics. So where you are preparing the graphics, right? So like Blender, right? We are creating our models in Blender.
Yeah, we don't use Blender because we start from the medical images of the patient. That is a data set of two-dimensional slides in gray scale, and we used some commercial or open source software. For instance, we use the open source software, the 3D slicer, in order to do the segmentation on each two-dimensional images, no? In order to recognize the organs in the each two-dimensional image. And after that, we use another algorithm in order to build a three-dimensional model with the information that we obtain from each slice of the dataset. They, at the beginning in grayscale, we can use colors in order to better recognize the organs. And in that way, we have a three-dimensional model of the organs built from the medical images. That means that that organ are the organ located in the patient body. Okay, and then we visualize this model, three-dimensional model, on the big screen in the operative theater, no? Because when in the minimal invasive surgery, the doctor used to cut, to create a port in the body, to insert the surgical tool inside, and the camera in order to visualize the situation inside the body, no? And it's used to move this tool and to see in the screen. It's not necessary to see to focus your attention on the patient, because the patient is not open, no? But you can see also only the information obtained by means of the camera inside the patient body. And we overlap this 3D information, 3D models of the organ on the images obtained by means of the camera inside the patient body, on the screen, the big screen in the operative theater. I don't know if I answered your question. Yeah. Yes. We don't use graphics. We use this tool, this software, in order to process, to segment the data set of the CT or MRI images.
So you are creating any object in like three-dimensional, and you create or scan in every side from an object and create or transfer it to graphics, right? Am I close to it?
But you are talking about the application in medicine or in general? Because in medicine, we use the medical image of the patient. No? That means we have a set of two-dimensional slides in grayscale. And from these images, we want to obtain a three-dimensional model of the organs. And we have to segment each slice in order to recognize in each slide the organ. Take into account these slides are very, very close. No? When you acquire medical images or CT or MRI, there are a lot of two-dimensional images, but they are very, very close. In that way, we can build the three-dimensional model using the information obtained in each slide. We don't use computer graphics. We don't use software like Blender in this application. Of course, in the cultural heritage application, we use Blender or other software in order to build three-dimensional model.
Thank you.
Any other question? Question? I really thank you for nice informative presentation. And I also mentioned that we have very promising, very successful students. They are generally about to graduate, and some of them are planning to go abroad to make master. And
you are welcome in our lab. No?
So if they want, please accept them.
Yes, of course. Why not?
Successful. We have some of them are very interested in virtual reality and the other subject. They were very helpful, and you will not be regretful if you accept them. Thank you so much.
Thank you to you for the invitation.
Şimdi online olarak İngiltere'deki misafirlerin gelemediler. Online olarak sunum aldık. İngiltere'den Hüseyin hocamız var.
Yes, please.
Böyle bir üniversitesinde yani bir projeler yapılıyor. Özellikle yapay zeka alanında çalışıyor. 25 milyon sterlinlik bir proje geçmişi var. Şimdi ondan artificial intelligence konusunda bir sunum dinleyeceğiz.
Hocam siz buradan karşı tarafta konuşacaksanız bunu alın lütfen.
Onu almam mı gerekiyor?
Karşı taraf sizi böyle duyabilir ancak şu anda.
So hocam, can you hear me?
Yes, I can.
Okay, so I'm sharing. So I stopped sharing.
Okay, I can start share.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Sizde kalsın hocam. Bir şey söylemeniz gerekirse.
Tamam.
Söylemeyeceksiniz.
Bir saniye. Şunun paylaşımı, ekran paylaşımını şöyle yapacağız. Uzak demeyelim, yine de diyelim. So hocam, we are ready. If you are ready, you can start.
Can you see my screen? I've shared my screen.
Yes, we can see your screen.
Okay, so I'll start my presentation. Thank you so much, Yasin, and thank you, other colleagues, to make this arrangement. I think this is another good part of this project. This is where we will be able to meet and communicate with our students and colleagues. I wish I would be there with you today, but a few years ago I was there and standing on the stage delivering my talk. But hopefully next time I will be able to with you. So, colleagues, I believe everyone has been generating data. I'm not quite sure if you are analyzing data, but everyone has been generating data. So this is the time of this year where we will see the collection and analysis of data in every discipline and every sector in our life. So that's why I said the power of the data. The question is that is it empowering people or not? So we'll see, and you may be able to decide over the next few slides. So I just want to start with COVID. I'm sure you are familiar with this data, and over COVID, you must have heard of all the different types of data on your mobile, on your TV, on your other platforms. So we have started looking into how many people have been vaccinated, how many have died, how many got infected, how many were asked to isolate. This is something that we have started watching every time. So everyone is obsessed with data, and based on the data, government decided what to do. So either lock down or release people, increase the vaccination, encourage people to get vaccinated, and so on. So this is something that we are very much obsessed with. But this is not the only data actually in the science, in vaccination or other places. Actually, newspapers have already started getting interested in the use of the data. So in fact, when you look at all these newspapers, they start talking about the importance of the data, the lack of data, and data leakage, and also data mapping, as well as data security. So this is what they said, okay, can data save lives, or can data ruin your life, or can data cost lives if because of the missing information or incorrect data, or the data that you have not been able to gather? Because at the beginning of the coronavirus, there was not that much data about the cause of the coronavirus. Yeah, so that's why they started talking about it, and the lack of the data, and so on. In fact, yes, data can save lives, data can cost lives, and also data can make you richer as well. During COVID, so we also started looking into the other dimension of the data, because data has been turned into drugs, treatment regime, vaccines, and also how we have been able to combat coronavirus by monitoring all these people. So that's why we started using artificial intelligence to be able to deal with it. So this is another news about the use of or the application of artificial intelligence in combating COVID-19. Not only this, in fact, when we look at coronavirus, this over the last couple of years, 2.5 years, what we have started seeing is that we have started collecting, analyzing, and making a decision based on the outcome of the analysis in relation to different aspects of COVID data. So again, molecular aspect of coronavirus, because we needed to identify in what way it works, and then that information has been turned into vaccine and also antiviral medicines, drugs, tablets, and also we started monitoring these people to see if they, when they get infected, they need to isolate, and we need to find who got in touch with, so that the others need to be isolated. But not only this, this is quite interesting. Just a couple of months before the first vaccination was released, the government went out to purchase an artificial intelligence software to be able to identify and collect high volume of coronavirus vaccine adverse drug reaction. So it was quite interesting because they didn't want to miss any side effect. In fact, because of early release of these vaccinations, they thought there may be a problem with these vaccinations, and that's why they purchased a £1.5 million software to be able to collect all these adverse drug reaction caused by or is expected to be caused by vaccinations. And this is exact wording from the procurement from the government. And I was shocked when I saw high volume. This was quite interesting. It was just a couple of months before the first vaccine was administered in the UK and potentially in the world. Also, the data, especially the molecular data, was very important for every disease, but at that time it was particularly important for the coronavirus. And US, in the US, the Wall Street Journal came over the news why UK became the world leader in sequencing the coronavirus genome, because at that time and currently, UK is the country that sequenced the largest number of coronavirus by itself. Maybe if you get the others together, in total, it may not reach the UK's number. This is quite interesting. But there is a background of this, because UK is the first country that sequenced 100,000, even more than 100,000 whole genomes within its health services. So they completed this project in 2018. Now, if you look at the current number of COVID-related genome sequencing, this is over 3 million. This is a massive. So what they do with this data, they look at the variations, they look at the mutations, and they try to understand which part of the genome causes this disease, and based on the outcome of this, how we may be able to develop better vaccine. The vaccine exists, but this information will help not only identify the variations, but also potentially personalized vaccinations in the coming months. And these are this data sets where we have seen massive benefit of. Otherwise, we would not have been able to see these vaccinations, and then we have not been able to be in this position. Unfortunately, our travel restrictions are still in place in the UK, and international travels are not that much encouraged. Although I can see that the other parts of the world are getting more normal than us, but despite all these advances in molecular aspect of coronavirus and vaccinations, but there is another data set that I found very interesting. At the beginning of the coronavirus, they collected massive chest X-ray, and actually, when I look at the numbers in the world, Turkey, it is one of the actually, Turkey is the country where we can see the largest number of X-rays collected from COVID-related issues. This is quite interesting. But what happened after for a while, we started not seeing the output of this chest X-rays, and I was very curious about the publications. I look at the literature. Last May, I was delivering a keynote in one of the conferences, and I found just over 2,500 papers published in Scopus. I had a look at last week, and it is nearly 4,000 papers that were published in that area. What has happened? Is there any advances in medicine in the clinical domain? There is nothing. So the data that was collected at that time, in fact, yielded nothing in the clinical term. So it means that there are different types of data that makes sense and then useful and can be turned into a product that can save people's life. On the other hand, the data that you may have collected may become a junk and results in nothing, and also there is no value in the clinical term. So I just want to start with the data that we are very much obsessed with over the last 2.5 years and collected for this interesting disease, and hopefully it will go away very soon. Yeah. So colleagues, if you look at the newspapers, the other domains, we started using data. We started harnessing data using different tools, and also we started developing artificial intelligence algorithms to be able to learn from the data and then put in practice. So we can see in health, we can see in education, even in our kitchen, and also electric vehicles to make our cars smarter, and also robots, drones, and virtual reality, and metaverse, and so on. So these are all different places where we started using artificial intelligence. Actually, even if you look at your mobile phone, most of these apps have a kind of AI embedded into these applications, because they are monitoring you, they are giving you a suggestion, and so on. So maybe it's a low-level AI, it may be a high-level AI, but this is where we started using AI along with the data over the last decade, mostly. And when you look at the health domain, this is where most of the data have been used and are being used. In the past, you had to go to clinics to be able to get your data collected, health-related collected. So they would have looked at your blood pressure, your temperature, your heart rate, and so on. But you can just use your mobile phone or wearable devices to be able to collect this data and pass it on to hospitals remotely. And now, when you go to hospitals, ultrasound, MRI, ECGs, EMGs, and so on, all these different devices are there to collect some other data, physiological data. And also, if you look at the molecular data, because it may be extracted from your blood or your specimen. So all these get together to make you human. So in fact, if you go to hospitals, you have your own digital twin as far as your health-related issues are concerned. So we keep collecting all these data every time, but it is getting better and much easier because of all these different types of wearable devices that can be remotely passed onto the hospitals and doctors to make a decision. So how this journey started? This is the earliest document that I have been able to find where we can see health-related data was recorded. It was about 5,000 years ago. So it was from Egypt, I was very lucky to get this confirmed by one of my Egyptian colleagues in the UK. Actually, this document on the right-hand side, it is about a person's brain. So at least the document that I found was confirmed that it was also data in relation to someone's brain. So this is how the journey started. So it means that we have started collecting data and recording it in one way or another 5,000 years ago, but it may be longer. I think it may be a useful document for colleagues in Turkey. Turkish Academy of Sciences asked me to write an article about this data and the power of the data. So this is where I presented the Turkish version of that information and the Turkish related data collection. It goes back to several thousand years.
Okay.
So I'll try to give you the link so you may be able to look at it. But where we are with it now. So from piece of actually, if you look at the people, they started recording data on the caves, walls. Now this is where we are. So data centers, massive data centers, maybe undersea, under water, and also somewhere in the mountains or somewhere in the middle of the city center. And we started collecting massive data and passing this on to data centers. Now we need, the jobs have started changing. Now we need chief data officers in every domain. So you can see there was no job that existed in the past. Now we can see the importance of the data, data management, data collection, data analysis from every angle. So if you look at the health aspect of this, so you have wearable devices, that's fine. So you can collect and pass this data onto health services, your doctors, and so on. Not only this, so this type of data can be collected and used for entertainment purposes as well. But not only this, there are sensors and other devices in and around your houses. So they collect data and they monitor you and your houses for different purposes. And also we have different devices, satellites surround our world and monitoring our world, monitoring our infrastructure, monitoring us. So for different purposes, maybe security, maybe health related, maybe environment, and so on. So it means that data is being collected at every millisecond, every second, every day, with different types of infrastructure, and also they are collecting different types of data. It may be image, it may be sensor data, and so on. So, but once we started collecting data, then the politicians got started excited about it because, oh, they said, oh, you don't need to come to the hospitals, just remotely monitor these patients and save money. So this is how the politicians think. So saving money, although they are sacrificing the people's patient health, in fact. But in one way or another, I think this type of data is getting very popular and very important and very useful because now it is getting cheaper and so on. The genome, the DNA, the helix was discovered in the UK in Cambridge in 1950s. And since then, there has been massive developments in that area. And now one drop of a blood gives you information about your current health, your future health, as well as your future generation's health. So if you look at drop of blood, so if you put it through the proteomics, they can come up with 300,000 biomarkers, actually the features, and then this 300,000 or 500,000 biomarkers would be able to tell you which of these proteins or genes are associated with your disease and so on. So even they can predict when you will start seeing the disease in your body. So that's why the politicians and scientists are very much interested in getting this data into the front line of the health system. But of course, we can pass this data on to clinicians, scientists, politicians, and so on. But there's a privacy of this data and security of the data. And actually, during the COVID time, so people started talking about how we may be able to secure our health-related data. In fact, just before the COVID, there was an agreement between health services and Google to ask Google to analyze the health-related data and generate some kind of tools to be able to better diagnose disease. On the other hand, at the same time, politicians start talking about why we are behind of using the NHS data to make our people's life much better. So you can see the dilemma here. You can see the interesting discussions here. But yes, data is there. We collected data. I think there's another system in Turkey. This is e-nabız. So massive data there. But the important aspect of this is it secure? So yeah, how much I can protect myself from getting my data exposed to the other people's hand. I think that's very important, because when you use this data, you can also use artificial intelligence algorithms or machine learning to be able to learn from this data, and also come up with predictive models for future applications. So how we come to that stage? If you look at the industrial revolutions, we have seen the first industrial revolution, steam power, water power, and so on. The second industrial revolution, mass production, and this is where electricity started getting more popular. And the third industrial revolution, this is where we started seeing the computer automation, World Wide Web. Now the fourth industrial revolution, this is where we can see cyber physical systems, networks, data-driven environment, and so on. So I think this is where we are moving towards. We have not been able to benefit from this that much yet, but I'm sure we will get there over the next a decade or so. So if you look at the fourth industrial revolution, this is where we started understanding the data, because with the advancement of technologies, we started getting data in a much easier way, and this collection of the data got faster and faster. And also, because of the data centers, we started managing data better and collecting and storing it. So if you look at the UK aspect, so UK digital strategy was published in 2017. This is where it started talking about the health, well-being, in relation to data and digitalization. But there is a big chapter in that strategy. It's all about data, how we may be able to turn data into a benefit of economy and public confidence. So this was a quite interesting and very long strategy. But following that strategy, now UK started pushing this into health-related data and opening the space to users to harness data for different purposes. There's an open databases. This is where you can see not only health-related data, but also, for example, council's data, and also all other government-related data. I just want to give you this health-related data repository for an information, for an example. But again, about 4 years ago, government leaders started talking about the health and healthcare-related data at the Davos Economic World Forum. It was quite interesting that different things were discussed at that time. So somebody said all these different things, the use of artificial intelligence, its importance about about the use of artificial intelligence in different domains in healthcare. And also they started talking about the machine learning. Even this, they said, okay, machine learning reduced the number of unnecessary surgeries for breast cancer by a third. This is quite interesting. And also they are using the technology to support the needs of aging society, and the use of artificial intelligence, and getting the UK as a world leader in that domain, and so on. I thought, oh, somebody was a computer scientist or a manager in a big company, and so on. This is what was said here. But this is not the case, unfortunately. This is, at that time, Theresa May, the UK's Prime Minister. At that time, at Davos, she made the announcement of Institute of Coding. So Institute of Coding was founded at that time with the £40 million initiative, and supported by not both government and companies. And then it was the platform where young generation, all generations started learning coding, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, data-related issues, data science through that institute. So I was very, very pleased to be one of the founding members of that institute in the UK. So we were invited to the House of Lords to celebrate the launch of that institute. So the institute still continues, but the founding members were only 18 universities. So at that time I was with Newcastle, Northumbria. So this is where I became the founding members of that institute. Why this is quite important, I'm keep talking about data, where the money is. Actually, when you look at the money is, I'm sure you also started seeing this in Turkey, but I just want to give you 7 examples. So if you look at DeepMind, it was founded in London in 2010 and sold to Google for $500,000 just 4 years after that. And if you look at another company, Benevolent AI, this is over 2 billion. Blue Prism over 3 billion. Darktrace, this is a Cambridge spin out on cybersecurity, nearly 2 billion. And I'm not quite sure if you have heard of Babylon, but Babylon is a digital health related company. This is over 2 billion. So if you get everything together, it's on that screen only. You can talk about over $10 billion business. You can't get this money by just selling a cucumber, colleagues. It is not possible. That's why the data is very much important, and the product of the data using AI is quite important and profitable. That's why everyone is very much interested in this area. Not only this, so there are some other universities, organizations that have started focusing on that area. For example, MIT established a $1 million college on AI. And if you look at SAS, they also invested in that area and then announced $1 billion college and in infrastructure and also product development in that domain. So you can see interesting developments here. So where all this data is coming from? So if you look at your mobile app, you may see some of these, if not all these mobile apps. And also, if you look at the other domains, for example, Netflix and so on, so we can start also seeing the other applications. And we started collecting all these different types of data from these social media platforms and internet providers and so on. This is quite interesting. This is what happens in just a minute. Number of Facebook's visits, number of tweeting, number of messaging, and so on. So there is a reason between this comparison, I mean, I would have brought you the use of all these different platforms in 2021, 22, but this is quite interesting. So, for example, if you look at Tweet, this is quite Netflix, for example, almost a threefold increase. And also, if you look at another one, actually, that's why I brought this to your attention. In 2018, there was no sign of this social media platform, whereas in 1 year, the number of users are about 5 million. So you can see that from a few, then a few million. So that's why these social media platforms or different internet-driven platforms tools are quite important to get your customers engaged with you. And also, this is where you can collect the data. Okay, so this is the case. But is there any dark hole there? It may be. I'll give you an example. A few years ago, so you can see we collect this data from emails, from Facebook, and so on. But something happened a few years ago in Paris. So there was an attack, and the bloody terrorists killed so many people, and the police couldn't catch them before that, but they managed to get away from this. There is a reason, because at that time, they did not use classic social media or phone or emails or WhatsApp to be able to exchange the messages. Do you know what they did? They only used Sony PlayStation 4 console to get themselves trained, prepared, and communicate about how they want to do the attack. So unfortunately, the police couldn't track it down because, according to Belgian minister, because this is what he or she was told, PS4 communication was more difficult to monitor than other messaging services like WhatsApp. It was true, but they didn't monitor this, unfortunately. And actually, it was very difficult to monitor either, because Sony at that time sold over 25 million of the consoles for the gamers, but not only first-hand, there was also second-hand purchases as well. So you may be able to monitor the first time, but for the second one, so it is difficult. The other difficulty is not only the volume of the devices, but also every game has its own ontology, and we need to be able to develop online game communication tool to be able to monitor this. And also we need to develop its own ontology for each game. So this was difficult, but happened. So you can see that there is a still dark trace, dark hole in this domain, and we still need to collect more data to be able to tackle different things from health to crime. There was so many different news about it in different platforms. They kept talking about it, but this is what happened. And then the police realized that, oh, they need to monitor everything. Then e-war on data hunting then started. This is where they started collecting data from toys. So smart toys, the Android-based toys, they have their own internet connection. Now you may give this to your child or your cousin as a present, but make sure that, I mean, but unfortunately, as soon as you give this away to your children or cousin, they are going to be monitored. Unfortunately, this is the case. Okay. Another thing is, so we collect data, so we analyze the data and we turn data using AI into different products and so on. But are we collecting enough data, or the data that we have is right to make us human? So is there a data missing, or is the data too much? You can see two different things here. On the left-hand side, the person is person, because the artificial intelligence algorithm recognize him as a person. But unfortunately, on the right-hand side, that gentleman has a picture on it, and it doesn't recognize him as a person. Look what happened. Just change it a bit. Now he has become a person. Yeah. So you can see that the difference between the data capture and how machine learning, artificial intelligence are going to deal with it. So chair is chair, the other person is person, but unfortunately the other person is not person. Look what is going to happen. So the same noise, I always say this is a noise, that picture, passed on to the other person. You can see that that person is not recognized as a human. So you may think that, oh, this is a fun. Yeah, so you can think that, oh, this is a fun. Oh, we do this algorithm, we play with it. That person is not person because artificial intelligence algorithm failed in detecting him. This is not fun, colleagues and friends. Now there is a plan to be able to make our borders borderless. What I mean by this, for example, if you want to go to somewhere, you need to have your ID card. If you go abroad at the airport, you need to get through these security checks with your passport and with your boarding pass. So there is a plan. Actually, it has already started being implemented in very few airports for try for a testing. So you don't need a passport. You don't need a boarding pass. As soon as you get into the airport, your face will be recognized, and then you will get onto the flight without any passport or without any boarding pass. And if that system failed in recognizing you, you are nowhere possible to get into the flight. So this is very dangerous. This is very difficult. The other thing is that this is fun. I'm not quite sure if you have seen this one, but our artist put 99 phones on his small track and then started walking around the city. And according to Google Map, actually, if you look at these 99 mobile phones, it keeps generating data. Yeah, massive data, 99 phones. And then Google Map realized thinks that there was a traffic jam. If you look at the map here, so all red, it means that there is a huge traffic jam. Actually, there is nothing. There is no one single car here. So you can see the manipulation in data. So it means that make sure that you collect enough data, and the data that we need to rely on needs to be correctly collected and analyzed. Also, we need to trust data. Yeah. Okay, so another one is quite interesting. I'm not going if you watch this movie. Also, accessing data faster is very much important, because this is also all about the getting the money and also getting things analyzed faster. Otherwise, if you look at the, for example, health aspect of this, so you may save lives. But if you can access the data even millisecond faster, you may be able to get your profit increased by $500 million. So, yeah, so this is the Hummingbird project. I watched it, so it was quite interesting. Actually, this is another example of the need of accessing data faster. So fasting, this type of access is particularly important in fintech. Okay, to say another one, yeah. I'm sure you must have heard all the news about Cambridge Analytica, Facebook. They shared the data, they collected people's data. Actually, they created a digital twin for all these people, about 1 million, and then try to influence their decision. And then they must have voted for Trump. And also, according to some conspiracy theories, it was also used in Brexit, the voting for the UK, to see if it should leave UK or not. So this is what we call Brexit. So according to all these different conspiracy theories, it was used to influence the people's decision, unfortunately. So it means that the data that was collected for different purposes, your personal data is being used to influence your decision through different social media platforms. So now the data that was collected, and then I use machine learning AI, artificial intelligence, to analyze the data. Now I created your digital twin for a particular social media platform. But how many digital twins you have, colleagues? So you got Facebook, you got LinkedIn, you got Twitter, and so on. Now we are getting into different domains and different things. What is it? This is the metaverse environment. But what is important in metaverse environment is to be able to create your avatar in a real term. But this is not only creating a 3D image of this. This is a 3D character of yourself. So in order to do that, we need to collect data and use the data that was collected through all different social media platforms, and so on. We analyze the data using artificial neural networks to be able to create an avatar which is very close to your character as well. Because this is not only about speaking, this is not about walking, this is about showing your character as well. So this is particularly important. So now currently this is moving that direction. This is not only mimicking you, but also mimicking your character, your behavior, your attitude, and so on. So this is quite interesting. There are so many different use cases in that virtual environment. Creating accurate avatar creation, digital humans, and so on, but they are all based on the data that we collected about that individual, that person, that his or her environment, friends, relatives, and objects that that person uses. So it means that multi-user, multi-object recognition interaction is quite important. But there are still challenges in and around in that metaverse using AI. So we have two different types of challenges. One is the algorithmic challenges, because algorithms are struggling to correctly recognize all the things, and also the health related, so the legal aspect of this. This is quite interesting. And how about the architecture? Architecture restoration with artificial intelligence is getting there. There are so many different applications, although this is still at the low level, but this is also linked to 3D printing as well. So you may go to a place where something was broken. So you use, for example, these two places, I just made it up, and then you use artificial neural networks to be able to predict what was there, what was likely to be there, and then just put in the 3D printer and print it out for you. It is at the small scale and large scale. So it is happening, it will be there. And there are a small number of applications in biomedicine as well. So they started printing some structural organs as well. I just want to briefly talk about what we have been doing here. So we looked at, for example, 100 years of influenza, and analyze it. And this is quite interesting. What we discovered is that actually H1N1, H5N1 seems to be related to each other because of the spectrum of the proteins that we discovered. So the reason is that because if you look at the proteins, then I would be able to isolate that place and create another protein. So this is quite interesting because H5N1 seems to have been extracted from the H1N1. Can you look at the dates? So H1N1, it's like a Spanish flu, and it happened in 1918, whereas H5N1 is 2003. So it means that this one was extracted from that one. So it may have been escaped from the lab, or it may be something else. So we don't know yet, but there is a still conspiracy theory behind this, and it was actually a part of the news, and we published that one, and we started digging into the news, and actually there is still a conspiracy theory behind this. So H5.1, because again in Spain it's killed millions of the people, but it may have been by accident escape from the lab. So we don't know yet. So again, we started continuing that research, and now we extended, and also we increased the number of influenza viruses in the proteomics domain. So we are working on about 50,000 different proteins to be able to recognize. So what is the importance of this? This will be able to detect who's getting which version of influenza, like COVID, because there are different versions of the COVID in the future, and also how they may be able to develop a better vaccine. And also during the COVID term, the people started objecting the government's requirements, for example, wearing mask and so on. So we developed this to be able to recognize who's wearing mask, who's not, and how they may be able to get instructed to obey the rules and so on. So another important aspect is that I'm just going to finish with this one. This is another data set. This is inspection of gas and petrol pipelines. I'm not talking about the gas that comes to your house. I'm talking about the gas pipelines that takes gas, for example, from Azerbaijan to Europe, or from from UK to US and so on. It's like over Atlantic and so on. It's a massive pipelines. So, but these pipelines need to be checked, inspected, so that there shouldn't be leakage, or if it is going to be a leakage, so it needs to be predicted when it is likely to be leaking. So therefore, they need to go there and then change that part of the pipeline. I'm not going to go through that one. Actually, this is the typical data. So it comes from the sensors embedded on that robot. And so that robot goes through the pipelines with the flow of gas and petrol. And there is no motor, there is nothing, because otherwise, if you put the battery there, they inflate. So this is, there are about, if you look at that circle of that robot, there are about 300 to 600 sensors on it, depending on the size of that that pipeline. So this is the typical data that was generated and passed on to the analysis. And before we did the project, there were hundreds of analyses were going through that data set manually with their eyes. So can you imagine that? So millions of, if you think of 100,000 kilometers of the pipeline and 600 sensors, so you can see the massive data, and the job took several weeks, several months. So can you see that? So there are boxes that were generated by the software there, and if you look at that box or that part of the data, as for a second, 1 second per box, it would take more than a month to be able to complete that analysis. It's massive. So you can see that the length of these pipelines, hundreds of kilometers. So it was very difficult. And this is, you can see that there's a corrosion of corrosion in that pipeline. And corrosion means that it will start leaking over the next few months or years. So the most important one to be able to pick up that corrosion, or then they would need to go there and change that pipeline, that part of the pipeline. So this needs to be predicted as well. So we turn this data into a product, with GE, and it was approved by GE Executive Board. Now they started using this as part of the data and driven tool. So we saved 1,000 hours of manpower and $100K US annually for them. But this data was a product of 50-year job in GE. They didn't throw away the data. They collected, they stored data for 30 years. So we use this 30-year data to turn this data into an AI-driven product. Then that has saved the company $100K US annually. Colleagues, this data doesn't exist anywhere else, only belongs to GE. So can you see the power of the data? And with this data, so they managed to create that tool only for GE to be used and sold to other companies. So you can see that the importance of the data. Also, I got involved with a company, AI company. So this is where we focus on pricing the products. So actually pricing is very much personalized. So we are using personal data to be able to personalize the price of your product. So when you go to, for example, supermarket, so a personal price may be offered. So this is another aspect of the use of the data and the power of the data. And with this data, you will be able to sell more to more people, and also you target your specific audience to be able to analyze their data and consequently offer different discounts, different prices. So this is all based on the behavior and purchase history of the customers that we work with. And then based on the outcome of this, so we make a price suggestion for products and customers according to when they are likely to be buying. So there are three main elements here: the products that you sell, the customers that you deal with, and the time of the purchases. And based on this, you will be able to analyze and also make a decision on the volume of the data, the volume of the products, and also timing of the sell. Okay, I'm just going to speak this one because it will take time. So I just want to finish with a number of different white papers in the UK. So UK Innovation Strategy was published last year, and also they started looking into artificial intelligence related activity in the sector because it was heavily funded by the government. And also they looked at the national AI strategy last September, and also following that one, October or November, they also published data strategy for defense. So can you see that how the governments are pushing a lot to benefit from the data in itself? Data strategy and AI strategy are together. They are not separate. So first it was published a data strategy, then AI strategy. Now they are following to each other. Without the data, you wouldn't be able to get to where you want to be for AI-related products. So this is particularly important. Now, the last one is net zero strategy. The green strategy was published in 2019 in Europe, but last October, UK published its net zero strategy. This is where they started talking about being smart is no longer important. Being green is more important. Therefore, AI and data should be able to contribute that one. And that's all from my side, colleagues. Thank you so much.
Okay. Thank you very much, Hüseyin Hocam, for your very informative presentation. So I want to ask to the salon if there are questions. Is there any question? So this is the Anfu way of actually online presentation day. Yeah. Thank you very much again.
Yeah. Thank you so much. So looking forward to meeting you in person. So thank you so much. All the best. Look after yourself.
Thank you for participation.
Thank you. Bye-bye.